What's up, guys? Welcome to the video. My channel is College Football Frenzy, back here with another video. Today, I'm going to be breaking down my top 10 games of Week 2 of the 2020 college football season. Personally, I think Week 2 of this upcoming college football season has one of the best out-of-conference slate of games I've seen in quite a while in college football history. I think it's got a lot of great out-of-conference games, a lot of decisive matchups that can really affect the playoff, how the playoff race will shake out. So there's a lot of big out of conference games in week 2, along with a few pretty good in conference games in week 2. So week 2 is by far my favorite slate of games for really the whole college football season. There's a couple other weeks that have some big games, but this week here has so many great entertaining matchups. It's just really a week that any college football fan would want to see. So I'm very excited for this week. Without further ado, I'm not going to really waste any time. I'm going to get into it right away. And just so you know, I'm not going to break down every new player a team is getting or anything like that. That's for different breakdown or prediction videos. This is just going to be why I think the matchup is good, what's appealing about it, stuff like that. All that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting at number 10. So this is one you probably did not expect to see on here, Memphis versus Purdue. Now, I had Purdue versus Nebraska as one of my top 10 games in week 1, and I have Memphis versus Purdue as a top 10 game in week 2 because I feel like Memphis is still going to be a decent team overall. They're losing Mike Norvell, but they were still very talented on offense this past season. Their offense should be good again, so I expect a lot of great offense from Memphis. Their defense might need to improve a little bit, but overall, I think this team is going to be a competitor in the American Athletic. Of course, like I said, losing Mike Norvell hurts, but they should be good. And Purdue, I expect Purdue to improve a little bit. I think they're going to be a bowl-eligible team. Maybe they make some noise in the Big Ten West, so I think this is an appealing matchup that I could see really either team winning. I think it's going to be a competitive one. So I'm excited to see this matchup play out. It's just going to be very interesting in my opinion. I think a lot of people are underrating these two teams. So I'm excited to see this. If I were to favor one team, I probably would favor Memphis. I understand they're on the road, but overall they probably are a little bit more talented, and they went to a New Year's Six Bowl last year. So I would favor Memphis, but still overall a great matchup in my opinion. Number 9, we have Boise State versus Air Force. So this is one that probably is flying under the radar a little bit for week 2, but this is really a huge matchup if you're a fan of the Mountain West Conference, because this matchup is going to greatly affect how the race goes in the Mountain West, especially for the Mountain Division. Usually this conference has a few good teams. It produces like 1 or 2 ranked teams per year. Of course, Boise State's almost always ranked. We expect them to be good year in and year out. For this upcoming season, they have a decent recruiting class, and their returning talent's okay. Air Force recruiting class, it's not great, and their returning production is one of the worst in all of college football. I understand that doesn't sound great, but still overall, Air Force is at home. I feel like the last few years, they've definitely been giving Boise State a challenge, and despite the not great talent, I think they can definitely, try to maybe win a division for this upcoming season. I think they can definitely give Boise State and some other teams in the Mountain West a run for their money. I think a lot of people forget these two teams finished in the top 25 last year in the final AP poll. So these are two pretty good football teams. I definitely will favor Boise State because they're a lot better talent-wise. But Air Force is at home. I definitely feel like they're a team that can do good things in the Mountain West this upcoming season. They have a tough schedule. But overall, I like this matchup. It should be a good one. 8, Louisville versus Clemson. So I feel like Clemson's going to win this matchup. But that being said, I think this is a huge game for Louisville to at least try to prove that they belong in the top 25 for this upcoming season. If they play it close with Clemson, I definitely feel like they can make a statement, show that they're a pretty decent team overall. I feel like they're the second best team in their division right behind Clemson. So I'm interested to see how Louisville does. I definitely think they have the potential to be a top 25 team next year. They greatly improved last year. I mean, in 2018 they went 2-10, and last year they went 8-5. So Louisville's going to be trying to make a statement here, at least play close with Clemson, make it look like they're going to be a really good football team overall. So I'm excited to see this one. Then again, though, it's in Death Valley at Tiger Stadium. It's a home game for the Tigers, and they're much more talented. So I'll take Clemson here. But still, overall, I think they're the two best teams in the ACC Atlantic Division. So I think it's a little bit of an intriguing matchup here. 7, Kentucky versus Florida. I think Florida at home, more talented team, has the upper hand here. But we know we've seen Kentucky the last 2 years, and they've given Florida a big challenge. Obviously, Kentucky ended that huge streak that Florida had going going against Kentucky. I think it was 31 years in a row. I might be wrong. I think it was 31 years in a row, and Kentucky ended that in 2018. It was a huge victory for the Wildcats. In 2019, it looked like Kentucky was going to win that game against Florida, but Felipe Franks got injured, and that's not usually a good thing, but Kyle Trask ended up being a great quarterback. He pulled the Gators back, and they ended up winning that football game. So this is an intriguing matchup. Two pretty good teams overall in the SEC East Division. I think it's going to be competitive once again. I think Kentucky will give Florida a run for their money. They're losing Lynn Bowden, but Joey Gatewood should be a pretty good quarterback overall. So I think Kentucky's a good team, and I think, of course, I think Florida's a great team. I think Florida has the potential to be an 11-1 team. But this is definitely a game that could be a trap game for Florida. So I have this at 7. But again, just a pretty good SEC East matchup. It should be fun to see. So this is at 7. 6, rivalry game here, Iowa State versus Iowa. So I think this is a game that's again flying under the radar. This might be a ranked matchup. I think Iowa State clearly is the better team talent-wise next season. Iowa's losing a lot of talent. Clearly, Tristan Wirfs, they're losing. That's a big loss. He went to the Bucks, obviously. They're losing to A.J. Espinosa and Nate Stanley. A lot of veterans there leaving, so that's definitely going to hurt Iowa. That being said, they're at home, and Kinnick Stadium, obviously, there's like a curse there. Very good teams do terribly in Kinnick Stadium. So this should be interesting to see how this game goes. Like I said, I think Iowa State's the more talented team, but Iowa clearly has the better experience, probably better coaching-wise, and they're at home. So I think this is a great game overall. It probably will be a top 25 matchup. I think Iowa might be a 7-5, 6-6 team, but at this point in the season, they'll be 1-0, and people won't see Iowa lose yet coming into this game. So I imagine since they finished ranked last year, this will be a ranked matchup. I definitely know Iowa State will be in the top 25. My guess would be Iowa will be in the top 25 as well. Number 5, Tennessee versus Oklahoma. So a game in which Oklahoma is the home team. In my opinion, they're more talented, not by much, but still they are the more talented team. But overall, I think Tennessee is definitely improving and can give the Sooners a run for their money. I'm favoring Oklahoma, but I feel like Tennessee is going to be a decent football team overall. We saw how they bounced back after they lost to Georgia State and BYU at home. They finished the season out 8-5. They've got a top 10 recruiting class, Tennessee. Oklahoma, I think it's like 11th or something, so it's not much worse than Tennessee's overall. Returning production, I would say they both have decent returning production. I think Tennessee definitely has a little bit better returning production just because Oklahoma is losing arguably their two best players. Jalen Hurts, who is a senior quarterback, did great there, finished second in first place votes for Heisman, and then CeeDee Lamb as well. That's going to hurt. And they lost Kenneth Murray, I believe, on the defense. So Oklahoma definitely lost a few key players, but overall they still should be good. I think Alex Grinch will help the defense a little bit. Again, it's a Big 12 defense, so no guarantees, but it should be a little bit better. So it's an intriguing out-of-conference matchup overall. I definitely favor Oklahoma, but it should be a good game. For Penn State versus Virginia Tech, I had to add this one in here. Virginia Tech, I think, is going to be a top 25 team next year. I'm excited to see what they have returning, how they're going to play. Decent recruiting class overall. Penn State, top 25 team, of course. Top 10 team, really, actually. So this is a very good football team. Many people have hopes that this team will make the playoff. They have a top 15 recruiting class, pretty good return production. Journey Brown, probably the best player on that offensive running back. He should be good. The defense is good. Micah Parsons is returning. We'll see how Sean Clifford develops. So Penn State's going to be a very good football team overall. If this was at Happy Valley, I would definitely say Penn State, but it's at Virginia Tech. And I think Virginia Tech probably has the most underrated atmosphere in all of college football. I think a lot of teams get very, very intimidated when they go to Virginia Tech. A lot of announcers have said that's actually their favorite place to announce because the crowd is just so crazy there. So I think Virginia Tech is definitely a team that at home can give teams like Penn State a run for the money. I would favor Penn State, a little bit more talented. And, they've been in bigger situations, bigger games, and they've won them overall the last few years. Like they beat Michigan last year. They have some big wins overall. So I would favor Penn State, but it's a home game for Virginia Tech. This should be a great game, a top 25 matchup. 3 North Carolina versus Auburn. I'm very high on on North Carolina. If you watch my North Carolina schedule prediction video, you might think I'm a little bit crazy for having them going 10-2, but I think North Carolina overall should be a great team. The returning production on offense is great, led by a potential Heisman finalist Sam Howell. The defense, it's okay, not great, but still overall, the team is good, and they've got a legendary head coach in Mac Brown. Auburn, great returning production overall. Bo Nix, not a fantastic season last year, okay season, but he should improve. Their biggest loss is Derek Brown, but aside from that, they're not losing much, and they've got a top 10 recruiting class. So 2 very talented teams going at it in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a neutral site game. Should be a great game. North Carolina definitely needs this more. Auburn has plenty of opportunities for big wins later in the season, but it's a really big game. I'm excited to see who prevails here. Auburn always has that tough out-of-conference matchup, and this is it for them this year. So it should be a great game. Again, I could see either team winning this. I would favor Auburn because they've been in these situations before, but it's going to be a good game, no doubt. 2 Texas versus LSU. So this was the premier out-of-conference matchup last year, clearly. It was week 2. I remember Texas was the home team. They messed up on a couple 4th downs early on, and that ended up costing them overall. I think if they didn't mess up on those 4th downs, it could have gone to overtime that game. They only lost by 7. So they played pretty well against LSU. It was probably the best game they played all season. Obviously, they had a lot of injuries after that game, so that kind of it's understandable why they finished 8-5 overall. But for this upcoming season, Texas clearly is not going to be very injured at this point. Even if they do get injuries, obviously it's going to come later in the season. So they should be a healthy team led by an experienced quarterback in Sam Ehlinger, could be a Heisman finalist. Great talent, a top 10 recruiting class. LSU's got a top 5 recruiting class. But it's not a huge amount. It's not really that much better than Texas's, in my opinion. It's better, but it's not. I don't think there's a huge margin between the 2 recruiting classes. Clearly, you can't argue that Texas has the much better returning production. That being said, I think coaching-wise, LSU has an advantage, despite losing Joe Brady and David Aranda. I trust Ed Orgeron more than Tom Herman, in my opinion. And also, it's in Death Valley, just a very tough place to play. One of the toughest environments in college football. So overall, I think it could be a better game than it was last year. I think Texas is the more talented team, but I think overall LSU is, again, better coaching staff and at home. So it's going to be a close one. I would favor LSU because they're at home, but this should be a really good one. Yet it's not even the biggest matchup of the week, and that goes to Ohio State versus Oregon. You knew it was coming. Top 10 matchup. Probably, honestly, a top 5 matchup it could be. So it's a huge game between these 2 football teams. I think both teams are going to be in the playoff race late in the season. Both finished in the final top 5 of the 2019 AP poll. So they were both great teams last year. Oregon won the Rose Bowl and the Pac-12. Ohio State won the Big Ten. Finished 13-1 overall. Almost beat Clemson. So 2 very good football teams. I think Oregon probably has a little bit better return production. I understand Ohio State's return Justin Fields. I understand that. I'm an Ohio State fan, but I think overall, Oregon, especially on the defense, is going to be a little bit better when it comes to experience, talent. I think they have a top 5 defense in the nation next year, whereas Ohio State, my team, I feel like losing Chase Young, losing Jeff Okudah, that's going to hurt. Sean Wade's returning, but overall, you have some holes to fill in the defense. The offense should definitely be great for Ohio State. I expect Justin Fields to be great, and they've got a pretty good run game with Trey Sermon. We'll see how Master Teague does when he comes back. And of course, Ohio State has a great weapon. So I think Ohio State probably is the better team on the offense. I think Oregon's got a better defense overall. It's in Autzen Stadium. If it was at the Horseshoe in Columbus, I would definitely say Ohio State. But this should be a really good game. I'm excited to see who prevails here. 2 younger head coaches, I would say Ryan Day and Mario Cristobal. It should be a fantastic game overall, in my opinion. I think it'll be a close one. It's going to be where game day goes. It should be just a great matchup. And these 2, the loser could still get in the playoff. The loser could definitely still get in the playoff, so it's a big matchup. But anyway, guys, that's it for now. Thank you for joining in. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Check out all my other videos. And that's it for now. Thanks for joining in.